Welcome, everybody, to another episode of From the Music Store. Except this week, we are not in the music store. It is just I, Jason, by myself. And you may be wondering, where am I? Well, a good chunk of this show coming up was produced on a very small sailboat in the middle of the British Virgin Islands. Sailing around with my family on a little 40-foot sailboat and getting my kids to get into something that's been a big part of my life and something I've really enjoyed doing my entire life, and that's sailing. But I really didn't want to miss a show, and I didn't want to leave you guys just wanting more. So I figured, heck, let me see if we can get this going from out here on the water. Of course, some of it will get finished up real quick, hopefully in time to send it to the radio station, WBNJ, where this is originally being broadcast, to make it to air on time. I hope you guys get to hear it. So we have a couple of things interesting going on. It was basically everybody in New Jersey, their kids had kind of off this week, and that's why I was away. And I think they call it Jersey Week. And if you go to Disney World, I'm pretty sure the first week of November, it's basically everybody from New Jersey has taken over Disney World. I've been using this as a chance to take my kids sailing. But so we got some interesting things. This week coming up to people listening to us live or replayed or recorded or whatever on WBNJ, we have a fundraiser going on Saturday night, November 18th at Waterview Cafe. And we're going to be doing selections from the American Songbook. Now, you may be asking yourself, what the heck is American Songbook? Well, as you know, WBNJ is an oldies station, and they do a lot of timeless music there. So I'm going to read from the Wikipedia definition of the American Songbook, and hopefully that'll help clarify things better than I can do on my own. The Great American Songbook is the canon of the most important and influential American popular songs and jazz standards from the early 20th century and have stood the test of time in their life and legacy. Often referred to as American standards, the songs published during the golden age of this genre include those popular and enduring tunes from the 1920s to the 1950s that were created for Broadway theater, musical theater, Hollywood musical films, and such. These are the tunes that we're going to be doing for the fundraising performance, and it's going to be a lot of fun. There's no charge, which is, you might be asking how we're going to raise money with no fee for musical performances, but once you get there, we'll rope you in and we'll shake you upside down, and hopefully a couple of quarters will fall out of your pockets. But anyway, that's 7 to 10 p.m. at Waterview Cafe in Barnegat, November 18th. So hope to see you there.
No one to talk with, all by myself. No one to walk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, saving my love for you, for you, for you, for you.
Okay, back to the part on why I'm on a boat. And when you're out on the water, there are a couple things that really make themselves felt. And one of them is what's so wonderful about sailing in general is the peace and quiet. There's no hum of a motor. There's no sound. It's just the wind and the boat going through the waves or cutting across the water. I like to fill up that silence with music. And then you've got motion, you've got wind, and you've got tunes. And a lot of times, the choice of those tunes goes back to what we consider summer vibey kind of songs, at least in the West, and what we characterize and think about when we're on a beach, clear water, toes in the water, you can see the fish, everything's so clean, and you're just on vacation, you're having a couple cold adult beverages. The music really sets the vibe for that. So I got to thinking, we are a guitar store and we're a music store. And I was thinking about that music and why things like reggae and calypso get played in those environments, or especially when I'm out sailing with my friends and family. Now, I looked into it I was able to get some internet, so I looked into it. I had always thought that this sound, and I did bring a guitar with me, by the way. A huge part of doing this is making sure you have a guitar with you. But I had always thought at one time that this sound, that we equate to reggae. That sound had something to do with how music was received in Jamaica and parts of the Caribbean around the 1940s and 50s. And I had always thought, or the story had always gone, that in Jamaica they were getting radio broadcasts of R&B and popular music from across the water from the United States, but that the distance of the signal had interfered with things and had broken it up, and that sort of had led to, instead of it like hearing, smooth strumming of the guitar, like the radio would break it up. And that was for, a couple decades. I thought that was the truth, but I don't think it really is, now that I've researched it. I went back in time and tried to reverse engineer that sound of Bob Marley and reggae. So reggae music that has that laid-back vibe really came about in the late 1960s. And it had been, we're going to go backwards in time real quick. So it had been reggae, and then that had sort of been an outcrop of something called rocksteady, and then just prior to that, ska. But in the very beginning, we had mento, which I'm going to play a bit of that rhythm for you, which I think it debunks this whole myth about the radio broadcast issue to get that skanky guitar sound. So mento was the vibe in Caribbean music in the 1920s, but it really peaked around 1940 and 1950. Now, that was basically the period where young Frank Sinatra was the Justin Timberlake at the time. And it's got elements of African rhythms. It's got acoustic instruments like guitar and banjo, hand drums. And now this is really cool. Something called the rumba box. It's kind of I don't know if you guys know what a kalimba is, but it's basically a box with a hole in the middle, and across which there are pieces of metal stretched across it that are of different lengths. So if you have a really long piece of metal and you flip it with your thumb, it gives you a low bass sound, or if there's a shorter piece of one, it's a higher pitched sound. But so this is a big one that you sit on that it really has a bassy vibe, and I'm going to play some of that. Now, I didn't know this either, but mento music had gotten confused with calypso. Calypso had come from Trinidad and Tobago.
Hold him, Joe, hold him, Joe, hold him, Joe, but don't let him go. Hold him, Joe, I said hold him, Joe, but don't let him go. Me donkey want water. Hold him, Joe. You better hide your daughter. Hold him, Joe. When me donkey want water. Hold him, Joe. He went round the corner. Hold him, Joe.
And even to the point where this is going to blow your mind, Harry Belafonte, who had been... Belafonte had a record called Calypso, even though he was a mento singer, and that came out in 1951, I believe. And it was a big hit. Like the Banana Boat song, Deo, and all that stuff. Those are great tunes.
Down the way where the nights are gay and the sun shines daily on the mountain top, I took a trip on a sailing ship, and when I reached Jamaica, I made a stop. But I'm sad to say I'm on my way. Won't be back for many a day. My heart is down, my head is turning around. I had to leave a little girl in Kingston town.
Basically, a calypso star in the 50s was actually a mento singer. So the world, or the commerce that be, said that mento was actually calypso. And I guess that at that point the Jamaicans were okay with him. Hey, look, as long as you're going to play our music and pay us and all that, you can call it whatever the heck you want. Fast forward a little bit, ska basically came out of, well, ska was the next step. And that was the one where music from the United States, particularly around New Orleans, was reaching over to Jamaica, and then there was an influx of actual radios into Jamaica at the time where people were able to listen to that stuff. Now, another interesting side effect is when they did that, guys with this thing called sound systems started, where they would take these radios and sound systems and put them on a truck and basically build mobile DJ stations for people to listen to this music that was coming across from the States, and eventually they used it to do the music that they were producing. And I guess apparently, even at one point, there was like basically like sound offs where these huge sound systems would like go to a party and then battle each other.
When systems like Cox's and Prince Busters would set up within hearing distance of each other in the early days, squads of police usually were called in to control the resultant fights and shoot-ups. The sound system men preceded the DJs of popular music by a decade. And when the R&B records gave way to local Jamaican recordings, they became a thing of great rivalry.
So a gentleman named Prince Buster was part of one of these sound system things. He actually cites a Willie Jackson song called Later for the Gator as the American rhythm and blues origin for the sound of ska. And then in the mid-1960s, Jamaican musicians, they started to slow down that tempo of ska. And then that's what was known as rocksteady. It had a shorter-lived lifespan, and some examples of that were performers such as the Heptones. Fast forward to 1977, reggae had developed out of ska and rocksteady. You had some great, amazing records, too many to talk about right now, but the one that just blew the doors open and that I think to this day is probably one of the greatest records ever is the album Exodus by Bob Marley, released in 1977. You want to talk about good stuff on that record. I mean, they got Jammin', Waiting in Vain, and the classic. Probably, I hear this more than any other tune when you're out listening to somebody do a cover gig, Three Little Birds.
Don't worry about a thing.
So there you have it, my super abbreviated history of reggae music and island vibes that I love to listen to when I am out sailing. Now, there is another form of music that we equate with boating and summiness and buffet and glasses of champagne, and that's yacht rock, darling, yacht rock. Now, yacht rock, when I was a kid, was basically known as light FM. It was a style of light pop rock that was in the mid to late 70s. Different artists like Christopher Cross and Sailin', Baby.
Sailing takes me away to where I've always heard it.
And now that got me to thinking about other songs about sailing and life on the high seas. And here's a classic one we can't forget about from Crosby, Stills and Nash, Southern Cross. I'm on a tear now. Of course, there's this classic, Drunken Sailor.
What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor? What will we do with the drunken sailor early in the morning? Way hey, and up she rises, way hey, and up she rises, way hey. a rusty razor, shave his belly with a rusty razor, shave his belly with a rusty razor early in the morning. Way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises.
Good old sea shanty, ain't she? Yes. Oh, that's where I was sailing, the BVI, by the way. That's like where the whole pirate thing, and I actually went to the island that is Treasure Island from the book. Go figure. Arr, yeah, mateys. What the heck is a sea shanty anyway? A shanty. I've hummed a tune. I sang a song. I tinkled the piano to a wonderful melody. I can't say I ever shantied, though. What is a shanty? Well, since you asked, or since you didn't ask, I'm going to tell you. It's from the Latin cantare, via French, chanter. The word shanty emerged in the mid-19th century in reference to an appreciably distinct genre of work song developed especially on merchant vessels that had come to prominence in the decades prior to the American Civil War. There it is, your shanty. Here's another sailing/boat song that was made popular by the Beach Boys. They did not write it. It has an interesting history. It goes back quite a long time, but I have to say they did a fantastic job with it.
We come on this sloop, John B., my grandfather and me, around Nassau town we did roam, drinking all night, got into a fight. Well, I feel so broke up, I wanna go home. So hoist up the John B. sail, see how the mainsail sets. Call for the captain ashore, let me go home. Let me go home. I wanna go home. Yeah, yeah. Well, I feel so broke up, I wanna go home.
This song actually was originally published in 1916 in an issue of Harper's Monthly magazine on an article called Coral Islands and Mangrove Trees. The song is actually sort of like a Nassau, Bahamas anthem. It's a Bahamian folk song, but it goes back quite a long time. There have been a lot of versions of it. Actually, Johnny Cash, of all people, did a version of this one. Probably has the most excessive use of reverb in any recording ever.
We sailed on the ship John B., my grandfather and me. Around Nassau town we did roam, drinking all night, got into a fight. Well, I feel so homesick, I want to go home. So hoist up the John B. sail, see how the mainsail sets. Call for the captain ashore, let me go home. Let me go home. Why don't you let me go home? Well, I feel so homesick, I want to go home.
So I've sort of gone on a tangent here from where I originally started, but the more I look into it, there are just way too many awesome songs about boats. And they don't all have to be on the ocean. You know, sometimes they could be on lakes and just doing a little bit of partying on the old pontoon.
On the pontoon, making waves and catching rays up on the roof. Jumping off the back, don't act like you don't want to. Party in slow motion, out here in the open, motorboating.
After Jimmy Buffett died, I always wondered who was going to actually pick up the mantle and wear the crown of the beach-loving, beverage-drinking, fun-time good guy. Kenny Chesney has a bit of that. I think I even heard once that somebody said that they dump sand in the parking lot of his concerts. For me, it would definitely have to be Zac Brown. He's worked with Jimmy Buffett. He's that blend of sort of rock, country, Americana, and just good old sitting, kicking on the beach vibes. These are just great tunes. This is Where the Boat Leaves From.
There's a place where the boat leaves from. It takes away I love your big problems. You got worries, you could drop them in the blue ocean. But you gotta get away to where the boat leaves from. Take 1 part sand, 1 part sea, and 1 part shade of a 9-nut tree. And the drinks set cold and the reggae is hot, and I know this is the place for me. Get away to where the boat leaves from. It takes away all of your big problems. You got worries, you can drop them in the blue ocean. But you gotta get away to where the boat leads you, Jimmy.
When I first started playing country music and taking steps away from that classic outlaw country sound of the 70s and started looking at more contemporary and modern artists, one of the first songs that really caught my ear and I really enjoyed learning and playing was Buy Me a Boat by Chris Janson.
Money can't buy happiness, but it can buy me a boat. It can buy me a truck to pull. It can buy me a Yeti 110 ass down with some silver bullets. Yeah, and I know what they say, money can't buy everything. Well, maybe so, but it can buy me a boat.
All right, everybody. This is Jason. I'm actually back in my home office here. I could have gone on and on and on about songs on boats and about sailing the seas. But honestly, I was a little bit, I was vacation mode. And my brain worked and then it didn't. Apologies that this episode was a little bit short, but hey, I was on vacation and I was working. And I'm not supposed to do that, right?